Hello again, and thanks very much for joining us. Now here are the stories making headlines at this hour. I'm Michael Nath. The federal government on Sunday described the divestments by international oil companies from the Nigerian oil and gas sector as a threat to the industry. It, however, challenged indigenous oil producers to see the IOC's divestments as an opportunity for Nigerian firms operating in the space to take advantage of the development. The Chief Executive, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Wenga Komolafe, disclosed this in Abuja. In his keynote address, Komolafe said, as a regulator, the Commission is not oblivious of the threat posed to the development of the Nigerian hydrocarbon industry by the divestments of the IOCs. He added it is indeed the right time to look inwards in the sector to boost the capability of the local content in value addition and optimizing the development of the nation's hydrocarbon resources. According to reports, most of the assets targeted for divestment by the IOCs were onshore properties located mostly in shallow waters on land. These are mainly the marginal fields, which are mostly relatively low in the quantity of crude oil found in them. But Komolafe encouraged indigenous operators not to be deterred by the divestments, stressing that Nigerian firms operating in the sector were currently producing a considerable amount of crude oil and gas. The federal government in the first quarter of 2022 raised a total of 1.84 trillion naira through the FGN bond market to finance the 6.26 trillion naira 2022 budget deficit. The Debt Management Office FGN bond auction results have revealed. The 1.84 trillion naira raised by the DMO from local investors represents an increase of 29.8% compared to the 1.42 trillion naira FGN bond raised in first half of 2021. The DMO FGN bond auction results revealed that February 2022 has one of the highest amounts raised by the government, while January has the lowest amount raised. The February auction result for the 12.50% FGN January 2026 reopen 10-year bond and 13.00% FGN January 2042 reopening 20-year bond recorded allotted amount with $415.42 billion or billion naira, inclusive non-competitive allotment, while auction result for January's 12.50% FGN January 2026 reopening 10-year bond and 13.00% FGN January 2042 a new issue of 20-year bond recorded 170.64 billion naira allotted amount by the Debt Management Office. However, the FGN bond auction results issued by the DMO revealed that the total amount offered between January and June 2022 increased to 1.2 trillion naira as against 900 billion naira offered between January and June 2021. The monthly breakdown of FGN bond revealed that DMO, on behalf of the federal government, offered for subscription 225 billion naira worth of FGN bonds by auction in June 2022. Now, despite the increasing price of crude oil, Nigeria's external reserves depreciated by $1.37 billion or 3.37% in the first 6 months of 2022 to $39.16 billion as of June 30th from $40.52 billion it closed in 2021. Data obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria Daily Reserves Movement has revealed. The foreign exchange buffer of the CBN in January was hovering at an average of $40 billion and later slid to $39 billion in 3 months, February to April, consecutive before reaching $38 billion in May 2022. The CBN data revealed that it remained flat at $38 billion in June and eventually closed at $39.16 billion on June 30th, 2022. The external reserves in March were down by $317.8 million, or 0.79%, to $39.55 billion. And in April, the external reserves gained $41.5 million, or 0.1%, to $39.58 billion from $39.54 billion. It commenced the month under review. Now, the decline in external reserves is coming on the backdrop of a steady increase in global oil prices as gas costs soar amid fears of a global economic shock from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. According to the CBN, the daily crude oil price in 6 months of 2022 appreciated by 70.3%, or $53.62 per barrel, to $129.87 from 76.25% between dollars per barrel reported on December the 31st, 2021. Analysts fear that heightened political activities, especially the accelerated electioneering motions, could pose an added risk to the recovery of the Nigerian economy. Assessing the impacts of electioneering campaigns on Nigeria's economic and business breakfasts earlier in the day, Dr. Muda Yusuf averred that apart from the elevated policy and political risks in pre-election seasons, investors invest cautiously and only in the short term.
At this time, they will slow down their investment to see what happens with the new government that is coming and what kind of policy is likely to come with. So the policy risk of investing, particularly investing long term at this time, is very high. The policy and political risk of taking on government contracts, particularly big contracts, which is likely to transcend beyond the current administration, whether at the state and the local government level, or the federal level, those risks are also high. Because you can take on a contract now, and the new administration comes and said, well, I'm no longer interested in this contract, or they begin to vary the terms of the contract, or they may not even pay you as a contractor. We have had that experience in the past, which had led to an accumulation of contractor arrears, which was run into trillions of naira, just because we had changes in government. Even if you have a change in government, even with the same party, these problems often arise. So for investors, policy risk and political risk gets elevated at this in a season like this. Therefore, they invest very cautiously. They invest short term rather than invest long term. So all of these things have a way of slowing down the recovery prospects of the economy. It slows down the scale of investment because investors are worried, they are concerned about what can happen if a new government comes and they begin to tinker with the policy.
Now, Nigerian banks' total assets rose by 11.15 trillion naira in 1 year to 64.32 trillion naira as of the end of April. Figures obtained from the Central Bank of Nigeria revealed that the assets of the lending institutions had hit 53.17 trillion naira in the corresponding period of 2021. The 2022 numbers showed a 21% increase over the period. According to a personal statement of a member of the Monetary Policy Committee, Kingsley Obiora, which was released by the CBN, the growth was driven by balances with the CBN banks, OMO bills, and credits to the real estate of the economy. He said the banking system remained sound, stable, and resilient. Total assets of the banking industry grew by 20.97% from 53.17 trillion naira in April 2021 to 64.32 trillion naira in April 2022, driven by balances with CBN banks.